Hi, welcome back to another episode of Table for Us podcast. My name is Nicole and I am your host. So today's episode is powered by Podbean. And if you are interested in starting your own podcast, please make sure you check the description on how you can get started with that. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to first give glory and honor to God for everything that He does and just for being who He is, because without Him, I would not be who I am. So today's topic and episode that we're going to be talking about is when love hurts, staying too long in toxic relationships, y'all. And I'm going to be speaking from my own personal perspectives. This podcast is a no judgment, all truths be told. I will not be mentioning names for privacy reasons. However, we will be diving into my personal relationships, those that I stayed in too long, those that were toxic, and the ones that I should have walked away from sooner than later. Okay. And how this could potentially relate to other individuals out there, whether you're a woman or a man. Okay. So the first thing is recognizing the cycles of a toxic relationship. Now, when you're in a toxic relationship, you actually don't realize you're in a toxic relationship. When you get out of that relationship, then you notice certain things and red flags that you ignored, is what I will say. Because I always knew, I shouldn't say I always knew, I saw the red flags on some occasions, but I chose to ignore them, if that makes sense to you. Some people don't see them, some people see them and ignore them. Or some people might be colorblind and they may look at it as it's a pink flag instead of a red flag. I don't know. So in my own personal relationships, now I have had in my adulthood 4 serious relationships, right? Where we were together for some years, we lived together, and we have a child together. Okay. So my 4 relationships. One relationship started when I was a teenager and it carried into early adulthood. Now, in that first relationship, that was actually my learning relationship, I will say, because I was just figuring out who I was basically. So in my example of what a good relationship is supposed to be, I didn't have that. Okay. My parents weren't together anymore. My grandparents had divorced. And my mom, she had been married, but she wasn't married to my dad. And when she was married to my stepfather, he was not the greatest. He actually was abusive. Okay. So I didn't have a blueprint of the type of relationship that I should have or I shouldn't have. Because again, my parents weren't together. My dad wasn't around. So I didn't have that dad-daughter relationship where he could give me the love that I know I should have wanted in a relationship. So I think, and I'm going to say I think because I'm still trying to figure this out, and therapy is helping me with this. But I think what happened is I was looking for that love I didn't get from my father in all the wrong places. And this typically happens with girls when they don't have their dads around. But on the flip side, I can say that, and not everybody is perfect, right? Some people are good matches. Some people outgrow each other depending on where you start in life. And some people shouldn't just be together at all. I will say that. So in my first relationship, we both were young. He's a couple of years older than me, right? And he actually was a good guy. He still is a good guy. But because I had daddy issues / abandonment issues or whatever you want to call them, I can admit that I pushed him away in a lot of ways. I would intentionally start an argument because I felt like the love and attention he was giving me, I wasn't used to it. And it didn't feel normal. And it gave me a sense of anxiety, like it was too good to be true. It was almost like, okay, I'm waiting for that other shoe to drop type of thing. And so I would intentionally, and I can remember vaguely doing this, I would intentionally, because I would get in my head and I would create this, I don't know, some scenario in my head or whatever, and create this argument. And we would get into this argument. It would always be over something so small at the time, right? And I would just be like, "No, I can't do this. We can't be together." So I would be the one trying to walk away, and that was my defense mechanism to break up with him first before he would leave me, right? Because I had these abandonment issues from my dad, basically. And in my dad's defense, because he's not here to defend himself, my dad was much older than my mom. If you watch my previous episode, my dad was much older than my mom, and my grandfather ran my father away. But at the time when I was little, I didn't see it that way. I just looked at it as my dad abandoned me. So those abandonment issues carried on into my relationship. Here I am in my first real, well, high school love, and then it morphed into early adulthood. So it was like, to me, my first real love, right? And I'm pushing this guy away. And I remember, so we started dating. I was a freshman, so it was mid freshman year. So by my junior year, so here we are. It's the tail end of my junior year, about to go into my senior year. And honestly, I'm young, so I don't know what's going on with me, but it wasn't a toxic relationship. It was just me and my abandonment issues. I'm gonna get into how I turned into a toxic relationship. So I was a toxic person, honestly. So he probably should have walked away from me. That's why I'm saying I'm speaking to both women and men. Okay. In my end of my junior year, I'm going into my senior year. I remember literally breaking up with him, and he didn't want to break up. This was me literally. And the reason that I gave him was that I, mm, my gosh, let me see if I can remember. I can't remember verbatim, but it was something about, we've been together my entire high school years, and I just want to see what it's like to not be in a relationship. It was something, oh my God, something so vague like that. So I broke up with a good guy at the time, right? He was a good guy. And he did not want to break up. He literally, I don't want to say begged, in a sense, pleaded with me and wanted to talk this through to not break up. And I was just like, no, I don't, I literally shut down. I don't even want to talk to you. And it was nothing with him. It was just my own personal issues. So anyway, we break up. We end up getting back together. We still kept in contact because, of course, this is my high school sweetheart. So at this point, it was kind of like off and on a little bit. And then we got back together maybe a couple of years later. So at this time, it's my junior year. I think I was 17 basically at this point, because I was 18 when I graduated from high school. So yeah, I'm 17. We ended up getting back together when I was 19 or 20, somewhere around there. So anywho, now fast forward, we get back together, right? Now we're early adulthood, right? Yeah. And now we have a child together. And it was almost, he changed. I will say this. He changed. And I can actually admit to this because I am an adult, right? That I was a big part of that change, because I forced him into something he didn't want, because I just had my own personal issues that was going on. So I'm going to watch the episode on therapy, okay, and mental health, and then come back to this. And the reason I'm saying that is because I encourage individuals, and at this, I was young, right? But I encourage individuals to seek therapy, right? Deal with your personal issues before getting into a serious relationship. Do not take your emotional baggage, right? Whether it's from childhood, other relationships, whatever the case may be, and dump it onto your current relationship. That is not fair to them. Okay. I apologize if you're watching this. Okay. Now, the relationship turned toxic because he changed, I changed. We were two different people, and then we were trying to manage being young adult parents. Okay. It was almost like a forced family. I'm going to say that. It was a forced family. But he, being a good guy, he said, I'm going to man up and be the responsible man and be there for my family and my son, yada, yada. But that, how can I put this? That love that we had before, it was like, I can't say that it wasn't there, but it was different. Okay. So it was more of a we're together out of obligation, not because you're actually who I want to be with. It's I love you, I care about you, but you're not who I actually want to be with. Fast forward a little bit, we have our son. 3 years later, we have our daughter. There was so many different things in between that time, honestly, before we even moved in together, where it was all these flags of this is not the same person that you fell in love with before. He's a different guy, right? And y'all just need to try to be co-parent. None of that stuff was clicking in my head. So we end up having our daughter, and that's when it came out that he was living a double life. He had met someone basically around the same time that we decided we were going to get back together. And we talked about this after everything was said and done. And he basically said, because for 3 years, he was living a double life. Literally, my life was lifetime, okay, when all of this stuff came out. He basically said that he loved both of us, but he didn't want to hurt us. And he didn't think, or I guess he wasn't sure which one was going to last. So he couldn't decide. And this is not verbatim. This is what I can remember. So anyway, I found out when I was pregnant with my daughter that he had this whole other relationship going on. And it devastated me. Like, it literally broke my heart. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, what? Like, this whole time, I'm literally, at this point, I'm ready to be in this relationship. He's changed. He's somebody different. And I'm giving it my all. So when I found that out, that he had this whole other thing, of course, my thing was, all right, go be with her and we're done. His thing was, I'm not leaving my son because, again, I'm pregnant with our daughter. Our daughter wasn't here yet. I'm not leaving my son. I'm not going back to my mother's house. So it was this sense of, I don't know, because I'm not a man, but it was just no. But in my eyes, I'm like, if you're with her, then you're not staying here. Go back to your mom's house or go live with this girl because I'm not dealing with this. So he decided that he wasn't leaving basically and that he was going to stay. So at that point, everything completely shifted. Now, I am not in denial. I no longer want to be in this relationship but at the same time, I'm trying to make it work because we have a second child on the way. But I'm still like 1 foot in, 1 foot out type of thing. And I'm just feeling all these emotions. But in the back of my mind, because I'm young, I hear this make it work. Y'all have a family. You have not one child, but now y'all have two. Because at this point, our daughter is born, right? But I saw him differently at this point, right? And all these emotions going on. Postpartum depression is kicking in. It's just so much stuff that's going on, but I'm really trying to make it work. And I couldn't trust him, right? Because you didn't tell me. You didn't give me the chance to choose what it was that I wanted to deal with. And this is so important with all relationships. I feel like both parties should be transparent in whatever it is going on with them, okay? Whether it's I don't want to settle down and be in a monogamous relationship, or I have serious mental health things that I'm dealing with, or I don't know, whatever it is that you have going on with you, you should be very transparent with the person that you are going to be sharing your life with to give them the opportunity to choose if they want to deal with this. Don't take that choice away from them, okay? So I didn't get the opportunity to choose. Do I want to be with my son's father knowing that he has this other person that he's dealing with, right? I found out after putting all my eggs in this basket and emotionally invested in this relationship, he gave me a ring and proposed. We had been engaged for a few years at this point, and I'm thinking we're going to be married and all this stuff. And my whole world just changed when I found out he had a whole nother relationship going on. So because we lived together, I couldn't kick him out. The police basically told me, because the police did get called because it turned into a serious altercation. And I just wanted him to leave. And he was like, I'm not leaving. They were like, he lives here, so we can't put him out. I'm like, okay. And they was like, we can make him leave so he can calm down and you can get some space, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, cool. So he stayed, but we decided that we were no longer together anymore, okay? And that he would stay there to be there with his children until he found his own place. And I was just gonna work and do whatever I did as mom or whatever, right? So we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. I drew up a contract and said, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna be respectful, blah, blah, blah. That's who you're gonna be dealing with. Nothing should be brought to the house, yada, yada. So he stayed in the living room. That was his part of the apartment. I stayed in the back. And actually, I'm lying. Let me back up. I feel like there was something that happened before. I feel like there was something that happened before that I'm missing. I feel like that contract was drawn up before our daughter. I could be wrong. I don't know. My timeline's off. But anyway, it was toxic, right? There was a lot of just dead silence, a lot of bad energy, right? And it was pouring into the children, basically. And at some point, I just said, you know what? I can't take this anymore. This is not the way I want to live. I'm unhappy whether we're together or not. We're still living together, and this is just not what I want to deal with. So at this point, we had been together either 7 or 9 years in total. And I just decided, okay, you're not going to leave. I'm leaving. You can have the place. He's, what? I can't afford to pay the rent by myself. Yeah, yeah. And I was like, I don't care. I'm leaving because I don't want to live like this anymore. So I left. Because he decided he couldn't pay the rent, I just gave a 30-day notice and I was like, me and the kids were leaving, right? So that's how I basically got out of that relationship. But I probably should have left sooner than later because I knew that he wasn't the same person and the relationship just wasn't the relationship that I wanted it to be, basically. So, next relationship, which wasn't a planned relationship, right? There was so many red flags. There were so many red flags in the beginning, right? That should have just been a friendship. That should have never turned into a relationship, but it turned into a relationship. And there was so much drama that came along with that. Literally so much drama. Now, love is kind, love is patient, right? And relationships are not easy, but they should not be drama filled. They should not be hard. When it's so much drama and so hard and just constant problems, you need to walk away. I will say that you need to walk away. And I did. And that relationship was 7 years. It was an off and on thing. We ended up getting married. We had a child. It was toxic. It was very much toxic. And I can say out of my 4 serious relationships, what I will take away is the blessing of my children. But I stayed too long. I'm not saying I regret the relationships. I regret that I stayed longer than I should have, is what I'm saying here, right? Because you love who you love, but you have to love yourself more than that other person, especially when you're not happy. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, let's back it up. Let's wheel it back in. Relationships are hard work. Marriage, even when I was married, is hard work, right? It's not easy. You're going to have your moments when y'all get on each other's nerves. You can't stand the sight of each other, right? But you have to literally outweigh the good with the bad, okay? Is what you want to do here. Now, if there's more bad than good, you need to walk away, okay? If you're trying to turn the bad into good stuff and say, oh, she does this or he does that, so it's okay that this happens, no, you need to walk away. There is a thing, so you have abusive relationships that can be physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, okay? And you have emotional manipulation, mental manipulation, verbal manipulation, where you have the narcissistic type of people who play on your emotions and your mind and try to really gaslight you and make you feel like you're the problem or, something's wrong with you. I had that relationship. That was my 3rd relationship, serious relationship. We were married and it was a lot of emotional, mental, and verbal abuse in that relationship. And that was, again, something where it was just like, okay. And then sometimes you get stuck in something where you feel obligated. You feel like, okay, they manipulated you, right? And played on your feelings and made it seem like if you were to leave them, you're like everybody else, right? So you're trying to not leave them because everybody else left them. Or you may feel as though everybody told you, and this is that particular relationship. Everybody told you not to be with this person. You need to leave this person, but you stay with the person longer than you should because one, you're waiting for this person to change and be who you want them to be, or you think they can be. Two, you are trying to prove to everybody else that they're better than what these people are seeing them as. So you stay in that relationship longer because you're like, no, I'm gonna prove you that she's not this or he's not that, and blah blah blah. You guys are not seeing what I'm seeing, yada yada yada. So you're trying to convince them, right, about this person is they're different, they're better. When in actuality, you're really trying to convince yourself. You know better. You know that they are not good. And we all do this. I did it. Where it's just, I stayed longer than I should. And I look back and I'm like, I'm mad at myself, not because I dealt with the relationship itself, because there was a reason for that relationship, but just literally because I stayed too long. I gave too much of myself. And when you give all of that time, you can't get that time back. So when you stay too long, it's dang. And then you have the situations where people, now, again, remember, I'm saying that my first serious relationship was high school. We started from high school, we went into early adulthood. Then maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and then the next relationship. After that, maybe a year. And then after that, it was probably like 6 months, and then I was in another relationship. So I'm literally in back-to-back relationships. I had never been single, really. I didn't know what it was like to live alone. So then that was also in the back of my mind, like, how am I going to be by myself when I've never been by myself? How is this going to work? I'm used to, hey, here's my man, and then I'm just by myself and I'm single. So that made me stay in relationships longer than I should have been as well because of that fear of being by myself. Now, with my husband, he manipulated me into thinking that nobody else was going to want me. So at this point, our son made my fourth child. And he was just like, nobody's going to want you with all those kids, blah, blah, blah. So I just was like, all right, I guess this is it. This is a relationship for me, right? And nobody else going to want me. So I got to stay in this because I don't want to be by myself. Two, ain't nobody going to want me with all these children, right? So I stayed in that marriage longer than I should have because of those things and because of the manipulation and all of the stuff. And then finally, I can't even say I just woke up. It was the grace of God that just threw me a bone and I took it and I ran with it. I was just like, okay. Because when I got married, till death do us part, I took my vows serious. Although he cheated on me shortly after we got married, it was just crazy. There was red flags from beginning to end in that relationship, I will admit. But and at that point, I think I had gone to therapy one time just for that little bit, like after my second child was born. I never went to therapy again. So I was emotionally damaged. I was mentally damaged. So he played on that. And then my relationship before that, I confided in him and he used that against me. Don't talk about your past relationships with your current person because they will throw it in your face and use it as ammunition. That was one of my lessons that I took away. Whew, don't do that. He completely isolated me from everybody. So that was a very abusive relationship, not physical, but mentally, emotionally, and verbally, very abusive. So I stayed in that one out of fear, out of low self-esteem, out of so many different things, right? And then once I finally was able to build myself back up and started going back to church and God started speaking to me and stuff, I was able to finally get out of that relationship. And I'm happy to say with that particular relationship, it didn't last as long as all the other ones. It lasted longer than it should have, but it didn't last as long as the other ones. So now my fourth relationship, there was some red flags. There was definitely some red flags. And I ignored the flags. I can admit that I definitely ignored the flags. And I wanted to believe everything that he was telling me. I knew that he cared about me. I knew that he loved me. But I also knew that he was a ladies' man. He was young. And there was a lot of females who was drawn to his looks and his charm, and he entertained a lot of them. And I held on because I couldn't even tell you. I held on longer than I should have held on that relationship when I should have walked away, and it, it was so much drama, right? So, my thing that I really want you guys to take away from this, and I didn't want this to drag on too long. I wanted this to be a straight to the point episode to talk about toxic relationships, recognizing the red flags, not recognize the pink ones too, the faded ones, they still in the red family, recognizing those flags and choosing yourself, right? Not staying in something out of obligation, not staying in something, and obligation could be finances, obligation can be, oh, where are they going to go if I'm not with them no more? And that could be both man or woman, whomever, staying with them because of the children, which is the worst thing to do because your children can see when you're unhappy. Your children can sense when things are off, right? And you have a lot of couples that will stay together or stay married. And then once the children have grown up, it's okay, now we can get divorced or now we can go our separate ways. And honestly, I've seen that hurt children more because they're like, what the heck? So y'all just going, we've seen y'all together all this time, even though you were unhappy. So you just go, and then you have those children that are relieved, right? Finally, now y'all can go be happy by yourselves. It could go either way. Um, what's another thing? Just staying because y'all have been together so long and you're comfortable, right? But if you're not happy, does comfort really matter? Think about that. There's so many different things. Every is different strokes for different folks, but really I would say if there is more bad than good, not in the person, but in the relationship, you need to do some evaluation and love and choose yourself. Love yourself more and choose yourself. Okay. And when you get out of that relationship, okay, take some time for yourself. Don't jump into dating and jump into another relationship. Take time to heal. Take time to spend time with yourself. This has been the longest I've ever been single, right? And just by myself. It's been, my son is 6. It's been 6 years now. And I've enjoyed it. I've literally enjoyed being single, not having to worry about picking up after nobody, not having to be obligated to rush home or make a plate for an additional adult. Like it's been nice. It's been nice to just only focus on me, focus on my children, mainly just focus on my just healing myself. So then that way when I get into my next relationship, I know what it is I'm good with, what I'm not good with, what I'm not going to settle with. Like I know now versus okay, I'm figuring it out alone while I'm in this relationship, okay? And I think a lot of women now are choosing to stay single because there's so much mess and drama out there. There's a lot of men that are choosing to be single as well. It's for different reasons, but I think mainly from my own perspective is that people are not working on themselves. For one, they're not doing that self-healing. Two, people are not transparent. You got a lot of people out here pretending to be something they're not. And you can only pretend for so long before your true colors really come out, right? But you're drawing people in on false lies and fantasies, and then once they're hooked in, then your true self come out, and now it's like, dang, I didn't, I'm in too deep, so now I can't walk away type of thing. Don't manipulate people, and it could be. I don't want to say it's intentional. I think some people do it subconsciously, don't realize they're doing it. It's not intentional. It's not that I want to hurt you. It's just that I can't make a choice if there's multiple people, but you'd be surprised how many women or men would be okay with having an open relationship in the beginning and just, hey, dating to see who it is they want to settle down with. But don't tell somebody what they want to hear if that's not what you want to do, basically. And the other takeaway would be to listen to your gut, okay? I don't even know how to like really break that down, but listen to your instincts, listen to your gut. If something is wrong and something is off, believe it, okay? Trust it. And the other thing is, don't go looking for something unless you're going to put action behind that. So I was one of those people who would be all up in their phone and everything. And this was in the first 3 relationships. I'm all in your phone. And I would find stuff and I'd be like, what is this? Then I'm not doing nothing else. So that literally just let them know, hey, all she gonna do is yap and then that's it. So that pretty much, they just kept on doing what it was they were doing. So unless you're gonna actually put action behind it and stick to it, stay out the phones, don't question nothing or whatever. Everything that's done in the dark always come to the light. But when you see it, choose yourself. Okay? Choose yourself. Stop staying in toxic relationships longer than you should, people. Choose yourself, okay? So, thank you guys so much for joining another episode of Table for Us. Thank you for pulling up your chair to the table. I hope you guys have a takeaway from this. And if this touched you, or maybe you have somebody you would like this to touch, go ahead and share this episode with them. Make sure you subscribe. And also, if you're thinking about starting your own podcast, go ahead and look at the information below so you can get started with Podbean. And you guys have a good and blessed week.